So I'm very happy to introduce Ravi Bala to give us a talk on Vipassana. She has extensive knowledge and experience about Vipassana. But in addition to that, she is also is a yoga teacher, and her she's an expert in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, um, and she has given many talks on that topic also. So I think this today's topic will be Vipassana, and then we'll see if she's interested, she can give talks on other topics also. So with that, Ravi Bala, you want to say any other things? So I think just overall, just keep the audios off. You can keep the videos on, and so go
Sure.
ahead, Ravi Bala.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sriji, first of all. And good evening to each one of you who has really enthusiastically and curiously joined this evening, though it is late in the night at 9 o'clock. And here in Washington, it's really gets very dark even at 5:30. So I really congratulate you for showing the interest in this particular subject, Vipassana. I'm sure many of you must have heard about it. Many of you must have done the courses about it. At the outset, I would like to genuinely thank Sriji for organizing this lecture for this group. And honestly speaking, just a month back, I have come here, but I'm so impressed by his dedication for the yoga and whatever efforts all his colleagues, disciples, whatever. That actually all 24 hours, I'm sure that he's thinking of yoga and how it can be practiced by all and benefited. So let me say, first of all, thank you to you. And now coming to this subject, when I saw that in on this group, various spiritual discourses or spiritual speeches were there. So I was thinking that Vipassana will be a right subject for this group. So I'm thankful to today's session for one more reason, that I could revisit all the sessions of Goenka ji, the teacher, who brought Vipassana to India back. And then I was thinking that this is a real ocean, Vipassana, the meditation, and what Buddha has given to the mankind. It is beyond any sect, religion, all this caste and everything. So it is mainly for any human being who is eager to reach the what do you say, a renunciation, the sannyas or the mukti, nirvana, or in Vipassana it is called nibbana. The Pali word says that. So let me first tell you what Vipassana is, and then how it came to India, how I joined, how I'm benefited, how I can see people getting benefited, what actually is the difference between all other meditations and how different Vipassana is. And then at the end of it, as Shriji has requested me, we all will be doing about 10, 15 minutes, if the time allows, the Vipassana meditation actually. So you people will be getting the experience of it. Those who haven't done, those who have done, it's an opportunity for them to do it. Okay, so first of all, V is Vishesh, that means special. Pashya in Sanskrit verb is to see. So see it with spatial insight or the sight, and that is, to me, I have taken it, and also in the during the discourses we can learn that it is an inner journey which has started for me, because we are such an extrovert all the time, the things happening around us. And what Buddha realized is our mind continuously goes on reacting in two ways. One is craving, and the second is aversion. So, Goenka ji, Satyanarayan Goenka, who himself was in Myanmar, he was a great industrialist, and then he had a severe migraine. So he was a very rich, affluent family person, And he had tried everything. See, he didn't know what's to be done. Somebody told him that go for this. There is a meditation course which goes on. One Sayaji Ubakhin, he is there. He is a government servant, but he conducts courses. So Goenka ji, he went there and he said that I've got severe headache, so migraine. So I have come here to learn from you so that it can go. So he said Vipassana is not for any ailments or diseases to be getting rid of it. It is a way of life. It is the way you can get rid of your miseries, whatever tensions you may be having. So as we all know that Buddha had realized that this world is of miseries continuously, right from birth till the end. So before him also there were many Buddhas, but Gautam Buddha, his contribution was he made it very clear that if you realize on a day-to-day life that whenever there is anything happening around you or inside, a thought or an emotion is there, there is a reaction. All the time our mind goes on reacting. As I said, aversion or the craving. So what happens is immediately there are sensations in the body. Usually people always meditate, various ways of meditating, namasmaran, go on chanting something or seeing any deity's a statue or the photo and then surrendering it, then either verbalizing any shloka. So Goenka ji says that, or even Buddha has said that this is all a superficial way of calming our mind. It definitely helps. It's an aid for concentration. But Buddha has found out, or he researched, and then when he was enlightened, he has given this to his disciples, and through them, it has reached us all. He has realized that whenever anything happens, we immediately react. So, anchahi and manchahi, they are a coin two sides of one coin. Means anything you want to happen in life, you go on looking forward to it. You crave for it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't take place. Our misery start. And then manchahi means, as I said, you want it to happen. And anchahi means you don't want it to happen and it starts happening and then you go into aversion. So continuously our mind is contemplating, judging, interpreting, and it's all our energy goes in our thoughts and in our emotions. So the second part is you just witness it. You observe every sensation, every development in the body. And then when you are with a calm mind, you only are witnessing. What happens is it starts disappearing, it starts dissolving. And then at certain point, you realize that your mind has come to such a calm level that nothing is happening. So there are various different stages in this, but in short, I'm just telling. There are beautiful discourses of all 10 days meditation workshops, and in the evening, what Goenka ji gives, so you can realize that how beautifully he has explained. So, coming back to Mr. Goenka, so when he went there, and then Sayaji Ubakhin, his teacher, said that it's not for that intention. If you want to sit here, learn what Vipassana, what Buddha has given, it can happen that your migraine will go. I am not guaranteeing you. If you have come for that, this is not the place. But then Goenka ji had no other way because all the medicines they were not affecting. So he sat there for all 10 days and he said that there was a total transformation inside. And then he realized that whatever I'm doing for my in the business, I've got enough money now. I want to spread it to the world. So nobody was ready to initially come for the courses. However, when he went to his guru, that is Sayaji Vakhin, he said, I want to give you some Guru Dakshina. So he said that the Guru Dakshina can be only this, that this art has come from India and it is almost, I mean, it has vanished from there. So you take it back to your own country and spread it to your own people. That will be my Guru Dakshina. So it was very difficult for him to leave all his business and all. But then he said, "This is what my calling is." And then he came to India. He realized that in the world, though Vipassana started in India, it has been quite diluted. So it was not in the pure form. Only in Myanmar, that is Brahmadesh, this was intact in the purest form as Buddha had given. So he said that since I have learned it from him, I am going to give it back to my people, and more people should be benefited. So he said that first workshop, he said nobody was ready to come. So my mother, father, my relatives only came, and then they realized that this is so beautiful. This is something different we have not learned in our lives. So after that, he started taking the camps in the tents, and then later on, as days went by, at Igatpuri near Nashik in Maharashtra, this is the biggest head office of Vipassana. And now all over the world, there are many centers through which Vipassana is being taught to people. 1 minute. For the initial learning of Vipassana, how it is designed, the program is designed, is for 10 days. And 10 days, it is a residential program. It is a workshop rather. You have to work on yourself. And the most important condition for that is, for all 10 days, you have to observe total maun, that is total noble silence. So it is called as Arya Maun. So what is Arya Maun? It is, uh, you are not going to take even the note of the existence of anybody else. So it is extremely difficult. And all through 10 days, I felt that it's a kind of a glimpse of penance, what the sages or the yogis of our country, those who had taught us, So it is difficult, but the benefits you get. Now, what benefits I got is, first, let me tell you how I was introduced to this. I read one article in a Marathi newspaper called Lok Satta, and then I was attracted. I said, something different, very challenging it is. Let me see what it is. So in 1997, I was fortunate that I went to Igatpuri first. And then I there were about 1,000 people, those who had completed the course, the earlier course, and those who were the new entrants. So I saw one lady sitting under a tree. She must be waiting for somebody. Very graceful, calm, quiet face, and then white hair. So I went to her. I sat there for some time and I said, Ki, are you a new entry and new participant, or you have finished? So she said, oh, I just finished it. I said, how were you benefited? Because that was my first experience going to Igatpuri. So she didn't say anything. She just showed me her hands, both her hands, and all the skin of her hands had come out. So I said, what is this? So she said, this is a total purification of mind and body. And every time, every year I come and this is what I take. All the mind purified, the body is so light, and I'm so happy. And I go. And then her driver came, a limousine car was there. She was from Santa Cruz, Bombay. And then she said, she wished me that I also am benefited. Now, this particular benefit she got, it may not be for everybody else. But this is what Vipassana does. And then Goenkaji says that it's man ka operation hai. It's a surgical process for the mind and the body, that how the purification takes place. So 10 days, first 3 days, it's called Anapan. Anapan means only you have to start watching your breath. Now, watching your breath, we have heard it from so many people. But here the difference is watching the breath, how it is coming inside, how it is going, where is it touching inside, is it cold or it is hot, where exactly you're feeling, are there any vibrations, any tingling sensations. And then after that, in the 3 days, another thing he adds is only to this small part under the nose, on the upper lip, concentrate on that particular small patch. So what happens is, it's really maddening, I tell you, all 10 hours in a day, sitting there, just watching the breath, it is really tapashcharya, sadhana. So, but what starts happening is, your all gross sensations in the body, they start calming down. And then you start only concentrating here, your mind starts becoming more sharp. And then what happens further, on the fourth day, when the Vipassana sadhana is taught to us, then they tell us to observe all the sensations, gross or subtle, from the uh, feet to the crown of the head, whole body. Now, what happens is, whenever we are reacting continuously, each time our every thought and our emotion shows the counter reaction on the body in the form of sensations. So if we don't get involved into it, if we don't react to it, we start observing it continuously, then they start eradicating, the subsiding, or dissolving. And another important condition on from the fourth day is, one, at every break, 5-10 minutes break, and then you have to sit there for an hour. So once you sit there, you're not going to move a limb, not even a finger. So that gives an adhishtan, that is a centering of the mind and the body. So we all know or have heard that mind and body are advait, like they are part of the same system. But we start realizing it on the experiential level. And then what happens is, it becomes impossible not to move a bit. So there are gross sensations. So what happens is, when they are telling us not to move, we don't have to move. So our determination gets enhanced. And then what happens inside is, when you start observing it from the third person's angle, to the sensation, to the pain in the body, um, it start dissolving. It's a miracle that you are not getting affected. Of course, in the sixth or seventh day, you start gaining that particular stage, that now it's no more paining. Some people do get it immediately. They say that par mein itna jitna apna punya hai utna jaldi ho sakta hai. Now, how all this helps in the day to day life? Why all this? So, first of all, when you are daily meditating daily, you know the rhythm of your breathing. Then what happens is, in the day to day life, if something happens, if you get angry, agitated, some volcanic feeling also may come out. If you do not want to react immediately on that, the best tool is, start observing your breath, and it works wonders. Then what happens is, you are away from that emotion. So the emotion doesn't get enhanced further. Then immediately you can have total control over your mind. So in Vipassana, there are two very, very important parts. One is sensation, observing the sensation, and second is keeping the mind in equanimity. That means samatol, balanced mind. So continuously, whenever things are happening around us, either cravings or aversions, there are so many miseries around us. Uh, when you have realized on the bodily level that the emotions, I mean, the sensations are coming up, then they are going, coming and going. So uh, your mind starts getting trained that the impermanence starts there at the root level. So Buddha has said that this particular aversion and craving, it can be removed, and the equanimity of the mind can be acquired at the root level of it. No other meditation goes to the root level. And it is really a proven fact that so many meditations, they are also on all the time working at the superficial level. But here at the sensations level, you start realizing it. And then what happens further, that when you realize that the subtle sensation starts getting subtler and subtler, subatomic level, the sensations are there. So you realize that your body is not any gross thing, it is a subtle thing. So what exactly Einstein, mind and matter, the matter and the energy. So everywhere it is energy, and the atoms are there. So it is said that when you reach at a higher level, when you get attuned to the universe, you realize that everything is moving, even the tree, even if you see it at the gross level, it also is continuously moving. The rocks are also moving all the time. So uh, on a daily level, inside, when you become more balanced, you don't repent on your actions or on your emotions. We also start realizing, I started realizing, and as in NLP I teach also, that when one becomes emotional, the person becomes most weak. We all realize that daily. So to be sensitive is different, but to be emotional, some many a times we lose control and then we repent that I shouldn't have done that. So there, immediately when you realize that this particular sensation arose in my body, and if you look at it with a balanced mind, with a observer's view as a sakshi bhav, it starts subsiding. So the thing is, when impermanence is the only permanent thing in life, so in bad days also we start training our mind that this is also, this too shall pass. There is a excellent story which Goenkaji says in the discourse, that there were two brothers that when their father dies, their property is divided, and then they divide everything whatever was in the house. And then they see a small pouch there in the in whatever the cupboard. So they were curious to know what is there. So when they open it, there is one diamond ring and there is one silver ring, which is very cheap kind of a thing. So the elder brother says that this seems to be from the inherent property. So I, being the elder brother, I'll keep that. And then this younger brother says, okay, I'll keep that. He smiles, he keeps that. Then Vasanta Padjad, bad days, good days start coming. And then the elder brother, he sells that particular ring. And then the younger brother, he's quite surprised why father must have kept this ring. So he minutely looks at it. And then on the ring, it is written, ki, this too shall pass. So he, whenever he was in good days, he continuously wears the ring, and then he gets that message that all the good days are also not going to be there, and even the bad days are also not going to be there. So that helps us in the daily life to maintain the equanimity of the mind and even the body. So inside this, when this happens at the root level, we start looking at the world in a totally different perspective. That clinging, all the time craving that I want this, this is mine, this is mine. That virakti, the detachment starts coming. And then this is not only at the principally told or a theoretical or philosophical thing. You start experiencing it. That's what Buddha has given as a bliss to the mankind, that where the misery start, if you look at it in a detached mind, if you're not going in the craving, not in the aversion, equanimous, and then there is no misery, because all the time you are looking at it like, and you won't believe, in NLP we have another very important exercise, and I realized it, my god, this NLPians, how they must have felt this particular thing. This exercise is for problem solving. And then you look at the problem with a detached mind. There is one whole process. But then at the end of it, we realize that each one of us, we have got a counselor inside. So which can look at every problem with a third person's angle. If we are involved in it, we don't look at it objectively. But then, if your friend comes to you and he discusses any problem with you, then you become immediately become a counselor and you give him solutions. But if in life, totally, completely, moment by moment, by every at every breath, if we are witnessing, we are dealing with life with a detached mind, we become our own counselors. We can deal with the problem more objectively, not involved in it. So we don't become emotional. We can logically, we can start sorting out our problems also. And then in Gita also it is said that as Sita Pradya Sukha Dukhe Same Krutva Labha Labha Jaya Jau, that reminded me with NLP that there is another subhashit in Sanskrit that Sarvadeva Namaskaraha Keshavam Pratigachati. That means anywhere you bow down, it's going to one God. So like that, all the techniques with different today's modern science also, I can see that it's going to Buddha's teachings. So this is what I got from Vipassana. In my personal life, there were so many calamities, but then I could deal with it with a more strong mind. I'm also in one introduction I would like to give, and then how it is related to mind and body, I would like to say. I also give lectures on the need of adventures in life. I've done many adventures like skydiving, gliding, lot of trekking in Himalayas, and I realized that whenever I'm doing an adventure on the physical level, I'm building within. So it helped me to overcome or deal with my personal problems in life. So mind and body, how closely they are related. So once again, what Buddha had said, I realized it on a different level. So here I would like to say that when I realized that anityata, anitya means impermanent, continuously it's going to be not going to be there permanently. How can we deal with it with a more balanced mind and body? So anyway, another thing what I would like to say, that after that, when I did my Vipassana courses, I gave a seva. Seva means actually this Vipassana, all 10 days courses, all eating, everything, staying is free. It's so amazing that people donate. Those who have done the courses, those who have been benefited, they wholeheartedly donate so that more people can be benefited. So their seva is in donation and also to serve the people, those who are staying there, so that more people can learn. So I did one 10-day seva, and that was for a course for the blind children. That is, they were teenagers, boys and girls. And you won't believe that when that noble silence was there, it was so suffocating for them that the girls were saying, I was staying with them in the girls' hostel, and we were taking care of them. That then sometimes the in first 3 4 days the girls were saying, we can't see and now we can't talk also. How are you? How are we going to live? So and then that turmoil, you won't believe how difficult it was for them. So what we had done was we had tied all the strings everywhere, ropes, and then from the hostel to the hall, they were holding the rope and they were going. Uh, while eating, everything we were giving, they didn't have to talk. We were holding them and making them sit. So after that, after the fourth, fifth day, everybody started becoming calm within. And it was so amazing to see that how they had started introspecting, the inner journey had started for them also. And on the 10th day, when the silence breaks, we can talk and interact, because when we go to the outside world, otherwise it shouldn't be shocking, that we have not spoken or not uttered a word, no newspaper, not looking at people, nothing else, only to your frame of the body, only you are looking within whatever is happening. So they allow us to speak. So there were some sharings on the last day of these young and blind children. So one boy, I remember what he said was, I mean, I still have the goose pimples on my body when what he said that I feel so lucky to get introduced to Vipassana, and I felt that the deaf and dumb people, how can they get benefited by this? We could hear you and we could practice, but how can they? So that he's immediately had started. He had counted the blessing in inside, and he was so delighted to get this Vipassana. I had written articles. I am also a journalist, so I had written articles on that. Another opportunity which I got being a journalist is when there was a souvenir to be published of Pune Vipassana Samiti. I was interested to visit the prison in Pune, Yeroda. And then there was a center, like you all know, must have heard that Kiran Bedi, who was the chief of police at Delhi, at Tihar jail, she had introduced Vipassana to all the prisoners, and then there was such a lot of transformation in them. So from then, central government, I don't know the recent this thing, but central government had given 10 days of paid leave to all the government officials, that they go and attend the Vipassana courses, all over the world also, and especially in India at various centers. So when I was interested, I had gone to visit the Yeroda jail, and then I was given one volunteer from them, and then I interviewed about 12 people, those who were sentenced life sentence. So many of them were murderers, and many of them had done very severe crimes. So when I interviewed them, you won't believe, each and every one, they said that we repent now, that we overreacted over the small thing. One person, he had killed his wife only because she had not cooked the meal well. I mean, how difficult it can be, that he had lost control. So losing control on the emotions, and then he repented that I am not a crime. I mean, I don't commit crimes otherwise, but I lost my control. So in life, anytime, if we do not lose control over our temper, our emotions, this is the best art one can learn, to have total balance inside. So anyway, that was how I really it was mind boggling for me to interview them and then realize that how they were benefited, that just one mistake, and then they are repenting all through the life. So we also should not repent like this anytime. So I will strongly suggest that each one of us, if we, anytime, I mean, I always say that before one leaves this earth, one must always do one Vipassana course at least. And then Guruji, Goenkaji says that, what Guru Dakshina you will give me? I only want that every year you do one 10 days course, and that's only the Vipassana. I mean, the Guru Dakshina. So you're always in touch. We are supposed to, all the Vipashti sadhaks, we are supposed to do sadhana at least twice a day, 1 hour. If even if it doesn't happen at 1 hour at least, or 45 minutes, whatever is there, one can do after that. Or the mindfulness. I mean, I don't want to use this mindfulness word because it has really become a very like cliche thing. But kshana pratikshan satarkata, that is the best words what Guruji says. And Buddha has said that every moment, even if you are eating, if you are walking, mindfulness is restricted only to see whatever is we are doing. But Vipassana is different from mindfulness. What I feel is that Guruji always says, and Buddha has said that watching the sensations, going to the root of it is Vipassana. Further in that, they also explain that whenever the current aversions and cravings we are watching as a third person, what starts happening during meditation is you realize that I'm not reacting to anything, then still I'm getting those sensations. How come? Then it is said that the earlier, whatever is there, layers and layers we have, and it is also from the last birth also. Now, even if we don't realize about, we don't believe in last birth and next birth, but Buddha has said that whatever we are carrying from the last birth, it also comes up, comes up. And then if you again watch it, it subsides. So it subsides means it gets eradicated. New samskaras, new seeds are not sowed. So what happens is your mind gets purified, and the more your mind gets purified, the more your body starts feeling lighter, feeling so happy, out of misery. And then one very important thing, and which I had told my own mother when she was very seriously ill, and then this teaching I have used it, I shared it with her also, as because Buddha has said that all those sensations and all the emotions you go on accumulating, and then when your last breath comes, when she died, I had told her that, mom, I used to, we call her I, please see that you don't want to go into another birth now, because she was suffering from cancer and we knew anytime it was going to come. So then what happens is Buddha has said that at the last breath, if you are, whatever the sensation comes, if you are again watching it from the third person's angle, just smile and then take the last breath. So you are at least not taking the baggage of this birth to the next birth, if we believe in that. But at least at the last breath, we are happily leaving this, abode, to the heavenly abode, I can say, if we have that much of parmi. This is all about taking, I mean, this is theoretical, whatever I'm saying, but on experiential level, I really recommend strongly that each one of you do enroll for the 10 days Vipassana course. At least one you must do. And then your life will change totally. Your whole approach towards dealing with daily life will change. I have to go a long way still. I know a lots to be done, but a glimpse of it I could get benefited, and this is what I'm sharing with you today. So right now, now I'm watching the watch also. So I would like to say that just now I'm going to end my session with a nice prayer, which at the end of the 10th day, we all get to hear in Guruji's voice, but I have got a excellent version of this. So,
तेरा मंगल तेरा मंगल तेरा मंगल होए रे सबका मंगल सबका मंगल सबका मंगल होए रे जिस गुरुदेव ने धर्म दिया है उनका मंगल होए रे जिस जननी ने जन्म दिया है उसका मंगल होए रे पाला पोसा और बढ़ाया उस पिता का मंगल होए रे इस जगत के सब दुखियारे प्राणी का मंगल होए रे जल में स्थल में और गगन में सबका मंगल होए रे अंतर मन की गांठें टूटे अंतर निर्मल होए रे राग द्वेष और मोह मिट जाए शील समाधि होए रे शुद्ध धर्म धरती पर जागे पाप पराजित होए रे इस धरती के तरतिन में कण कण में धर्म समोए रे शुद्ध धर्म जन जन में जागे घर घर शांति समोए रे तेरा मंगल मेरा मंगल सबका मंगल होए रे
okay, so please take your seat. Now, please close your eyes. Now, just observe your breath coming and going. There may be some sensations in the body, but right now you are only going to observe your breath. The thoughts may be coming, but as a cloud, let them go and go further. Your antenna is going to be not on to catch them up. So just realize where the air is touching your nose, which part of the nose. You can realize it is cold or hot, warm. Just watch as it is. Accept as it is. So even if there is any pain in the body, you're just going to watch that pain. There is no pain. There is some sensation. Now again, if your mind wanders, again come to the breath. Next 5 minutes, you're just going to watch your breath. Slowly, the whole body is all quiet, calm. Just watching the breath. You will realize where on the upper lip the air coming out, where is it touching? While going in, where is it touching? You don't have to see, hear, feel anything, just observe. As if Sakshi Bhav, as if you are witnessing. You're not getting involved in it, just witnessing. Being aware. The subtle air going in, subtle sensations are there. Once you start cultivating this habit of watching your rhythm of your normal breath, it will help you whenever you are in emotions. If you do not want to get them aggravated naturally, immediately go to your breath. On a daily level, if you observe this practice of knowing the rhythm, knowing the way you breathe every day, when you're agitated, your breath becomes harder, it becomes more, it takes up the speed. If you are in depression, the breath is different. But when you know that your normal breath is this right now, whatever you are doing, or whenever you sit and meditate, then you will know that I want to come this balance of mind. This will help you to be in the equilibrium of the mind and the body. Complete silence within. We waste our energy in our thoughts and the emotions. But then, when our mind is calm, we store our energy, our mind becomes very fresh. Just cool down. See it as it is. You're not going to label it, you're not going to judge it. Each one's breaths are different. We're not going to compare with anybody else, just as it is. With this, you start developing an adhishthan, a centering of the body. You know when in pain or when in hyper mood, where to look at, which is your center of the body. And breath is the last thing which you are going to lose in this life. So this is called an alamban, it is an anchor. So breath is the best thing to hold with. And with that, you start having another center if you want. That will come naturally, but that will be your choice. But breath is the best tool for you to keep the balance of your mind, emotions, and thoughts also. So now, slowly, you can start feeling the sensations of the whole body. Now, you can take your attention from your breath to other body parts. You can start with the sensations, watching it as a third person again. It's not you who is feeling the suffering, it is, or feeling the sensation. It is a third person, a witnessing, and a detached person is looking at the pain or the sensation right from the feet. One by one, you can take a round to all the organs of your body. Some people, it's very difficult to feel the sensations. So, first, initially, you can feel where the cloth is touching your body, or to the open limbs if the air is touching. So, this way, the mind becomes more subtle, अधिक सूक्ष्म हो जाता है. And then from each organ, you go to the crown of the head. And then again, you can come from the crown of the head to the feet. Like this, every 2-3 minutes, you can take a small stop at every organ, look where what is happening in that organ. At the later stage, one starts feeling, developing, experiencing all the subtleties, all the waves in the body. There is no gross matter. So I'm just, in short, I'm telling you, but you can start feeling, experiencing those sensations on a daily level. So whenever the craving occurs in mind, what are the sensations? When the aversion is there, what are the sensations? We start observing that. So there are many chitta vrittis, So Buddha has specified that 151 chitta vrittis are there, 121 types of mind are there, and 52 types of mental contents, concomitants are there. So now we'll come back to the breath again. And then, as I otherwise say in my sessions, I'll call from 3 to 1 and we'll come to this present moment. 3, 2, and 1. And you can rub your palms, put it across your eyes. And whenever you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. Yes, please. You can please start your videos, and you can make yourself unmute. So namaste. Thank you so much. I am really thankful for this wonderful experience, which I also could take virtually. I hope you all enjoyed.
Thank you very much, Ravi Bala. That was